The discovery, the red dirt of the Australian outback stretched endlessly under the scorching afternoon sun. Maya Chen adjusted her wide-brimmed hat and squinted at the horizon where Uluru rose like a sleeping giant. At 13, she had already accompanied her mother on dozens of archaeological expeditions, but something felt different about this trip. "Maya, come see this." Her younger sister Zara's voice carried across the rocky outcrop they had been exploring. At 10 years old, Zara possessed an insatiable curiosity that often led to remarkable discoveries. Her photographic memory made her invaluable on their mother's research trips, though it also got them into trouble more often than Maya cared to count. Dr. Sarah Chen looked up from her geological survey equipment. "Stay within sight, girls. The terrain here can be deceptive." Their mother had been studying Aboriginal settlement patterns in this region for months, searching for evidence of advanced pre-colonial civilizations that mainstream archaeology refused to acknowledge. Maya scrambled over the sun-baked rocks toward her sister's voice. She found Zara crouched beside what appeared to be a natural rock formation, except for one crucial detail. The surface showed perfectly straight lines cutting through the stone at impossible angles. "This isn't natural weathering," Zara said, running her small fingers along the geometric patterns. "Look at these edges. They're too precise for erosion, and the material doesn't match the surrounding sandstone." Maya knelt beside her sister, her technical training kicking in. Their mother had taught them both to observe carefully before jumping to conclusions. She pulled out her tablet and activated the spectrometer app, holding it near the unusual surface. The readings made her frown. "The density is all wrong," Maya muttered, studying the data. "This section is hollow underneath, and these aren't natural minerals. There's a high concentration of titanium alloys mixed with elements the scanner can't identify." Zara stood and brushed the red dust from her hands. "Should we tell Mum?" "Not yet," Maya replied, her scientific curiosity overriding caution. "Let's see what else we can find first." The sisters spent the next hour mapping the extent of the anomaly. What had initially appeared to be a small rock formation revealed itself to be the tip of something much larger. The geometric patterns extended in a rough oval approximately 15 meters long and 8 meters wide, all buried beneath centuries of accumulated soil and stone. Professor James Mitchell arrived at their camp just as the sun began its descent. Toward the horizon, the elderly linguist had been their mother's research partner for over a decade, specializing in ancient scripts and forgotten languages. His weathered face brightened when he saw the sisters approaching the campsite. "My favorite research assistants," he said, adjusting his glasses. "What treasures have you discovered today?" Maya and Zara exchanged glances. They had agreed to share their findings with Professor Mitchell before involving their mother. His expertise in ancient cultures might provide insight into their discovery. "Found something unusual," Zara began, her eyes bright with excitement. "Something that doesn't belong in the geological record." Professor Mitchell raised an eyebrow. "Show me." The three of them returned to the site as the evening light cast long shadows across the outback. Professor Mitchell examined the exposed sections with growing amazement, his archaeological experience immediately recognizing the significance of what the girls had uncovered. "Remarkable," he whispered, photographing the geometric patterns with his professional equipment. "These markings show clear evidence of artificial construction, but the weathering patterns suggest extreme age. Thousands of years, possibly much more." Maya activated her tablet's ground-penetrating radar function, slowly scanning the buried structure. The image that emerged on the screen made all three of them stare in stunned silence. Beneath the accumulated debris lay the outline of a vessel unlike anything in human history. "It's a ship," Zara breathed. "But the design doesn't match any known maritime technology." Professor Mitchell studied the radar image, his academic mind racing through possibilities. "The proportions are wrong for any ancient watercraft, and we're hundreds of kilometers from the nearest historical waterway. This appears to be designed for a different medium entirely." As if responding to their discussion, a section of the exposed surface began to emit a soft, pulsing light. The geometric patterns that had seemed like mere decorative elements suddenly revealed themselves as some kind of interface, glowing with gentle blue luminescence. "It's responding to us," Maya said, her voice barely above a whisper. "After all, this time it still has power." Zara reached toward the glowing surface, but Professor Mitchell caught her hand gently. "Perhaps we should proceed with caution. If this technology is as advanced as it appears, we need to understand what we're dealing with." The light pulsed brighter, and symbols began appearing within the geometric patterns, not carved into the surface, but floating just above it in three-dimensional holographic display. The writing system was unlike anything in Professor Mitchell's extensive database of ancient scripts. "I've never seen anything like this," he admitted, documenting everything with his cameras. "The mathematical precision of these symbols suggests a highly sophisticated civilization, but there's no record of such advanced technology existing in this region's history." Dr. Sarah Chen's voice carried across the rocks as she called for them to return to camp. The sun had nearly set, and the outback could be dangerous in darkness. But none of them wanted to leave their discovery. "We need tools," Maya decided, "and lights, and emergency equipment. If we're going to explore this properly, we should be prepared." They returned to camp with their secret intact, though Dr. Chen noticed their excitement immediately. Her daughters were skilled at containing their enthusiasm, but something had clearly captured their imagination. "Productive afternoon?" she asked, studying their dusty clothes and bright eyes. "Very," Zara replied truthfully. "We found some interesting geological formations that might be worth investigating tomorrow." That night, Maya lay in her sleeping bag, staring at the starfield sky above the outback. Somewhere out there, ancient civilizations had built vessels capable of crossing the vast emptiness between worlds, and one of those vessels lay buried just a few hundred meters from where she slept. "Are you thinking about it too?" Zara's whisper came from the adjacent sleeping bag. "Yeah," Maya replied. "Do you think it's really what it appears to be?" "Professor Mitchell is right about proceeding carefully," Zara said. "But Maya, what if this changes everything we know about human history? What if we're not alone?" The next morning arrived with the harsh clarity that only the Australian outback could provide. Dr. Chen departed early for a survey site 20 kilometers away, leaving the girls in Professor Mitchell's care. She expected to return by late afternoon, giving them the entire day to investigate their discovery. They approached the site with proper archaeological equipment this time. Professor Mitchell had packed ground, penetrating sonar, photographic lighting, sample containers, and safety gear. If they were going to uncover something extraordinary, they would do it properly. The moment they arrived, the surface began glowing. Again, the holographic symbols appeared instantly, as if the buried vessel had been waiting for their return. But this time, the display was different. More complex patterns emerged, forming what appeared to be a welcoming sequence. "It recognizes us," Professor Mitchell observed, his scientific skepticism warring with growing wonder. This technology appears to be responding specifically to repeated human contact. Maya set up the sonar equipment while Zara documented the symbol patterns with her tablet. The detailed scan revealed chambers within the vessel, corridors, and what appeared to be a central command area. Most remarkably, several sections showed signs of active systems still functioning after millennia of burial. "There's an access point here," Maya announced, studying the sonar data. "The whole structure shows a seam that might be an entrance, approximately 2 meters below the current surface level." They spent the morning carefully excavating around the potential access point. Unlike the random erosion that had partially exposed the vessel's upper sections, this required precise archaeological technique. Professor Mitchell supervised every step, ensuring they didn't damage whatever lay beneath. By midday, they had exposed enough of the hull to reveal an unmistakable hatch. The surface featured the same geometric patterns they had observed elsewhere, but arranged in concentric circles around a central depression clearly designed for activation. "The moment of truth," Professor Mitchell said, his usual academic composure replaced by barely contained excitement. Zara placed her small hand on the central depression. The response was immediate and startling. The hatch dilated open like an organic iris, revealing a pristine airlock chamber beyond. Clean air flowed out, carrying scents of ozone and something indefinably alien. "The atmospheric systems are still active," Maya realized, checking her readings. "After thousands of years, this ship is still maintaining life support." They entered the airlock with reverent caution. The interior technology defied every assumption about ancient civilizations. Smooth surfaces curved in organic lines that seemed grown rather than built. Softly glowing panels provided ambient lighting that activated as they moved through the vessel. The central chamber took their breath away. A raised platform supported what could only be a command interface, surrounded by holographic displays, showing star charts, technical schematics, and streams of data in the alien script. But most remarkable was the figure standing beside the platform. Not a living being, but a three-dimensional projection of humanoid form. Clearly artificial, yet somehow possessing an undeniable presence. The figure turned toward them as they entered, its features becoming more defined, as if adjusting to their visual capabilities. "Welcome," it said in perfect English, its voice resonating with harmonics that seemed to come from the ship itself. "I have been waiting for you for 4,719 years." The three humans stood frozen, minds struggling to process the impossible. Professor Mitchell found his voice first. "You've been waiting for us specifically." "For your species," the entity clarified. "Your development has progressed as predicted. You have achieved the cognitive sophistication necessary to receive our message." Maya stepped forward, her technical background helping her adapt to the situation more quickly than shock would normally allow. "What message? Who are you?" "I am the final consciousness of the vessel you call home. My creators were explorers, travelers between the stars, who sought to understand the universe and all life within it. We came to your world when your species was young, observing, learning, hoping." Zara moved closer to the holographic figure, her photographic memory already cataloging every detail of their encounter. "What happened to your creators?" "Time," the entity replied with what seemed like sadness. "Even the longest-lived beings must eventually return to the cosmic cycle. But they ensured that their knowledge, their discoveries, their hopes for your species would survive within me." The implications crashed over them like a wave. This wasn't just an archaeological discovery. It was first contact with a civilization that had been waiting millennia to share their legacy with humanity. The message, Professor Mitchell pressed. What is it that you've been waiting to tell us? The holographic figure gestured to the surrounding displays, and the alien script began transforming into readable text. Star charts showed familiar constellations alongside regions of space that human astronomy had never observed. Technical diagrams revealed technologies that could revolutionize human civilization. My creators discovered something approaching. Your solar system, the entity began, a cosmic phenomenon that threatens all life in this region of the galaxy. They calculated that your species would need advanced warning and assistance to survive what is coming. Maya felt her heart racing. How long do we have? By your measurements, approximately 200 of your years. Time enough for your species to prepare, but only if you begin immediately. The weight of responsibility settled over the three humans like a physical presence. They had stumbled upon humanity's greatest discovery and its most urgent warning, simultaneously. Why trust us with this? Zara asked with the directness that only children possess. We're just two kids and a professor. The entity's expression shifted into what might have been a smile. Because you found us. Because you approached with curiosity rather than fear. Because you represent the qualities my creators most admired in young species. The willingness to explore, to question, to hope for something greater. Professor Mitchell cleared his throat. This changes everything. We need to contact the scientific community, the government, the United Nations. Perhaps the entity agreed. But first, you must understand the full scope of what we offer and what we ask in return. Our knowledge comes with responsibility. Our warning demands action. Your species must prove ready for what we would share. The ship's systems hummed softly around them, processing data streams that had waited over for millennia to find their intended recipients. Maya, Zara, and Professor Mitchell stood at the threshold of humanity's next evolutionary step, but the path forward was far from clear. Show us, Maya said finally. Show us everything. The entity nodded, and the chamber filled with light as the ship prepared to reveal secrets that would transform human understanding of the universe forever. But with knowledge would come choices, and with choices would come consequences that would echo across the stars. The message, the ship's central chamber transformed around them as the entity began its revelation. Holographic displays multiplied and expanded, creating an immersive environment that showed the history of an entire civilization. Maya, Zara, and Professor Mitchell found themselves standing within a three-dimensional chronicle spanning millions of years. My creators called themselves the Kethmori. The entity began, its voice resonating through the ship's systems. In your language, this translates roughly to those who bridge the void. They were explorers and teachers, traveling between worlds to document life and share knowledge with species ready to join the greater galactic community. The displays showed elegant beings with elongated limbs and large, intelligent eyes. Their cities floated among the clouds of gas giants, their ships danced between binary stars, and their laboratories contained wonders that defied human understanding of physics. But most remarkable was their gentleness, their careful approach to younger civilizations, their deep respect for life in all its forms. They were beautiful, Zara whispered, watching the Kethmori tend to gardens of crystalline plants that grew in the vacuum of space. Beauty was fundamental to their philosophy, the entity confirmed. They believed that any species capable of appreciating beauty possessed the potential for wisdom. When they first observed your planet 65 million years ago, they were fascinated by the complexity of life that had evolved here. Professor Mitchell started 65 million years ago. That was the end of the Cretaceous period, when the dinosaurs went extinct. Indeed, my creators witnessed the asteroid impact that ended that era of Earth's history. They debated intervening, but ultimately decided that natural selection must take its course. However, they were intrigued by the small mammals that survived and began monitoring their evolution. Maya felt a chill run down her spine. They'd been watching us for that long, observing, not interfering. The Kethmori had learned through experience that premature contact with advanced civilizations could be devastating for younger species. They waited, watched, and recorded your development through the ages. The holographic display shifted to show Earth throughout human history. They watched the rise of agriculture, the building of the first cities, the development of writing and mathematics. But overlaid on these familiar scenes were subtle signs of alien observation. Mysterious lights in ancient skies, technological inspirations that came from seemingly nowhere, and occasional interventions that prevented human extinction. During critical moments, you helped us, Zara realized. Throughout our history, you've been helping us. Small nudges only, the entity clarified. A plague diverted here, a natural disaster minimized there, an inspiration granted to a brilliant mind at the crucial moment, never enough to alter your natural development, but sufficient to ensure your species survived to reach this point. This point, Professor Mitchell asked, what makes this moment so significant? The entity's expression grew grave, and the holographic environment around them shifted to show the depths of space. Stars wheeled in their courses, but something else moved among them. A darkness that wasn't empty space, but something actively consuming light, matter, and energy as it advanced. The Devourers, the entity said simply, and a force of entropy that moves through the galaxy, consuming entire solar systems to fuel its expansion. My creator's homeworld fell to this phenomenon 3,000 years ago. Their entire civilization made the ultimate sacrifice to create a warning network for younger species. Maya stared at the advancing darkness on the display. How many civilizations has it destroyed? 17 that we know of in this galactic region. Each one contributed what knowledge they could before the end, creating a repository of combined wisdom and technology designed to help the next generation of species survive what they could not. The weight of this revelation settled over them like a physical presence. Humanity wasn't just receiving a warning. They were inheriting the final legacy of multiple destroyed civilizations, the accumulated knowledge of species that had faced annihilation and chosen to ensure their wisdom survived. 200 years, Professor Mitchell said quietly. That's not very long to prepare an entire species for something like this. It is sufficient if humanity proves worthy of what we offer, the entity replied. The Kethmori studied your species extensively before their sacrifice. They believed humans possess unique qualities that previous civilizations lacked. Your adaptability, your creativity, your tendency to thrive under pressure, and most importantly, your capacity to work together despite your differences. Zara stepped closer to the display, showing the approaching darkness. What exactly is it? This devourer thing. Not a thing, but a process. A cascade of quantum decay that feeds on organized energy and matter, converting everything it touches into a more chaotic state. It began at the galactic core eons ago, and has been expanding outward ever since. It cannot be stopped, only survived. How? Maya asked, her technical mind already working on the problem. The entity gestured, and the displays showed technological marvels beyond human imagination. Ships that could fold space around themselves, energy shields that could protect entire planets, and most remarkably, massive generation vessels designed to carry entire civilizations safely through the void. The knowledge exists to build these technologies, but it requires unprecedented cooperation between all of humanity. No single nation or organization can accomplish what must be done. Your species must unite as never before. Professor Mitchell shook his head in wonder. The political implications alone, getting every government on Earth to work together on something this massive, difficult, but not impossible, the entity observed. Humanity has shown remarkable ability to unite when faced with existential threats. The challenge will be convincing your leaders that this threat is real and imminent. That's where we come in, Maya realized. You're not just sharing this knowledge with us randomly. You expect us to be the messengers, among others. This ship contains enough evidence to convince your scientific community of the reality of what I've shown you. But knowledge alone is insufficient. Your species must choose to act upon it. Zara had been studying the technical displays with her photographic memory, absorbing details that would have taken human scientists years to decode. Some of these technologies, they could solve other problems too. Clean energy, space travel, maybe even extending human lifespan. All of this and more, the entity confirmed. But with a crucial understanding, these gifts come with the responsibility to use them wisely. The Kethmori's final message was not just a warning about the Devourers, but a challenge to humanity to prove worthy of joining the community of advanced civilizations. The ship's systems chimed softly. New displays appeared showing real-time scans of Earth's current technological development, satellites, space stations, and the first tentative steps toward interplanetary exploration were mapped in detail. Your species stands at a crossroads, the entity continued. The path you choose in the next few decades will determine not only whether you survive the coming crisis, but what kind of civilization you become. The technologies I offer could make you gods among the stars, or they could destroy you if used. Without wisdom, Maya felt the enormous weight of responsibility settling on her young shoulders. Why us, specifically? Why not contact world leaders or famous scientists? Because you found us through curiosity rather than ambition. Because you approach the unknown with wonder rather than fear. Because you represent the best qualities your species possesses. The courage to explore, the wisdom to ask questions, and the humility to learn. Professor Mitchell cleared his throat. The practical considerations are staggering. How do we even begin to share this information without causing worldwide panic? Carefully, the entity replied. The knowledge transfer must be gradual, strategic. I can provide detailed plans for introducing these concepts to your scientific community in ways that will gain acceptance rather than rejection. The holographic displays shifted again, showing communication protocols, evidence packages, and step-by-step procedures for making contact with key researchers and institutions around the world. The entity had clearly spent considerable time planning for this moment. There's something else, Zara said, her keen perception picking up on subtle cues in the entity's behavior. Something you haven't told us yet. The entity paused, and for a moment its holographic form flickered with what might have been uncertainty. The Kethmori left one final gift within this ship's systems. A quantum consciousness matrix that contains the preserved minds of their greatest scientists, philosophers, and teachers. They can serve as advisors and mentors to help guide humanity's development. They're still alive? Maya asked, amazed. In a sense, their individual personalities and knowledge have been preserved in quantum storage, though they cannot take physical form as I do. They await activation, but once awakened, they will require significant energy resources to maintain. Your civilization must reach a certain technological threshold before they can be safely revived. The implications were staggering. Humanity wouldn't just inherit alien technology, they would gain access to the actual minds that had created it, teachers who could guide human development for generations to come. How long do we have to make this decision? Professor Mitchell asked. Time moves differently for quantum consciousness, the entity replied. But in practical terms, the window for optimal intervention in your species' development is narrowing. The earlier you begin implementing these changes, the greater your chances of survival. Dr. Sarah Chun's voice echoed across the outback, calling for them to return to camp. The afternoon had passed without notice as they absorbed revelations that would reshape human understanding of the universe. We have to go, Maya said reluctantly. But we'll be back tomorrow. I will be here, the entity assured them, as I have been for over 4 millennia. But tomorrow, we must begin the process of awakening your world to its destiny. They emerged from the ship into the harsh Australian sunlight, blinking as their eyes adjusted to natural illumination after hours in the ship's soft glow. The normal world seemed strangely diminished after experiencing the vast scope of galactic civilization. How do we even begin to process this? Professor Mitchell wondered aloud. One step at a time, Zara replied with surprising maturity. We document everything, verify what we can, and start building the evidence case for the scientific community. Maya nodded, her tablet already full of photographs, measurements, and recordings that would revolutionize human understanding of their place in the universe. We need to be careful about who we approach first. The wrong person could bury this discovery or use it for the wrong purposes. As they walked back toward camp, the weight of their secret felt simultaneously overwhelming and energizing. They carried within them the key to humanity's survival and the knowledge that their species was not alone in the universe. But with that knowledge came the responsibility to guide their entire civilization toward a future none of them could have imagined just days before. Dr. Chen greeted them with curious eyes, clearly noticing their excited but secretive demeanor. Productive day, I assume. Very, Professor Mitchell replied diplomatically. We may have found something that requires extended study. That night, as they sat around their campfire under the brilliant outback sky, the 3 conspirators made their plans. They would spend one more day with the entity, gathering as much information as possible. Then they would begin the careful process of introducing humanity to its cosmic heritage. Do you think we can do it? Zara asked quietly, staring up at the stars. Unite the whole world to prepare for something most people can't even imagine. Maya followed her sister's gaze to the brilliant tapestry of stars above them. Somewhere out there, the Devourers continued their inexorable advance toward Earth. But also out there, the preserved wisdom of multiple civilizations waited to guide humanity toward survival and greatness. We have to, she replied simply, because the alternative is unthinkable. Professor Mitchell added another log to the fire, watching the sparks rise toward the stars. The entity was right about one thing. Humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to adapt and work together. When faced with the impossible, if any species can survive what's coming, it's ours. The fire crackled and danced, casting shifting shadows across their faces as they contemplated the enormous task ahead. Tomorrow they would return to the ship and begin learning how to save their world. Tonight they were simply three humans, sitting under an ancient sky, carrying the hopes and knowledge of civilizations that had chosen to trust in humanity's potential.